All right, a little bit more explaining to do here. Um, this is a lot to take in right here, I'll bet. but got me the stuff I needed to be able to thread into the oh, for crying out loud, I should know what the oil drains. The oil drains on the small engines, so that I can put one of these. Well, I got four, but I could do two engines, but I put one on each side and then have it run to the 3/8 hose I got here, and then run to the cooler. Uh, this thing's rated for all kinds of stuff, but it was 12 or 14 plate. So I have a total of 5 of these things. I couldn't believe it. I got 5 of those things for $100. So I'm like, yeah, I'll take 5 of those for $100. Most of the time, I see them for $50 a piece. I'll take, yeah, five for 100. That's a good price. But I won't need very much oil flow on that, because that's, you know, the engine holds less than 2 quarts. So what I'm looking at is using a pretty basic. They're meant for gasoline and diesel and whatnot, so I'll give it a try. And that's obviously 12 volt. The rest of this is all 12 volt as well. So I now have an engine with electric start, even though I've never actually used the electric start. But I have this, which will hook up to either either a 20 volt or a 60 volt DeWalt. And then I got this switch here so I can disconnect the batteries from the circuit, because the generating capacity of what's on the engine, everybody's telling me it's 1.5 amps. So I'm going to be discharging it. I did find that if I was willing to take the flywheel off and put another charging assembly behind the flywheel, I could get it from 1.5 amps up to 5 amps, and that's as high as I could get. Find anything to up the amperage output on a. Got to remember, it's not a big 420cc engine. It's a 212cc engine, so you're not going to find it with the 10, 15, 20 amp output. 5 amp output is a whole lot. So that is my plan for the cooling the engine oil. And I guess the other thing I should say is the second side, the opposite side from the engine oil, will be water. And I figure I can just mix in, once I know everything's working, I can mix in probably enough antifreeze to keep things from corroding up. I'm not going to put 50/50 antifreeze in it. That's just not going to happen. But if it works, and I can make it work with like 10 gallons of water, I'll I'll make it work, because that 10 gallons of water will not be just for the engine oil. That 10 gallons of water will also be cooling the hydraulic oil. So there's no problem with mixing the water between the two. You just don't want to mix the hydraulic oil with the engine oil. So, and for the hydraulic oil side, I got another 12-volt toy. I'll see if it does any good. I figure, all this stuff, I gotta keep it out of the weather. If I leave it out in the weather, it's just gonna fall apart. But I figured that pump there, it's basically a miniature gear pump. It's the manufacturer rated it for oil products. Not They didn't just rate it for gasoline. It was rated for oil products. And if the battery method, trying to run that pump and running this pump, and the other thing that I'm running into is I still got to be able to pump the water. So I may wind up getting another one of these, either use my second one of this, which is identical to that, for the hydraulic oil, or just get another one of these, because I know I need to move the water faster. So, and if I can't get enough power out of the batteries and whatnot, I got these. They were 150 watts was the highest I could find. So I've got the suitcase generator, and I've got 2 outlets on that generator. I can junction these 2 things together if I really need both of them. I sold them as a pair, and so I got 2 of them, and that can be my boost to the because that little suitcase generator, it'll run a battery charger. Of course, that's probably going to draw a little bit more than a battery charger, but a gallon and a quarter of gas is probably going to run 10 hours or so. So nothing really earth-shaking on that. I have a limited number of connection points on the tank, and they are undersized. So I got these 2-inch NPT inch, and I'm going to wind up drilling a couple of holes in the reservoir tank to, at least one. I could use the fill port as the return to the tank. I could use the fill port if I really wanted to, and I'll have fittings that'll come out of this and go to from inch to 3/4. That's what I got here, is this line. Bought it as suction line. That's why it only has a 310 psi rating. It's not a pressure line. It's just a line from moving oil from one place to another. Not pump any pressure from a pump. You wouldn't want to put through that unless it was absolutely a pathetically low pressure. And for the output to the pump, I don't know why they sent me 4 of these things. I only needed 1. I would have rather to have 4 of those and 2 of these than anyway, but it threads into. Of course, can I do this with one hand? Yeah, I can. You wind up. That's going to take a doggone big drill bit to stick that thing through, as well as, welding on a hydraulic tank. I'm going to have to completely empty it. I'm going to have to completely drain every drop of it I can out of it. Completely disassemble the wood splitter and turn it so that it 90 degrees so that this is, facing straight up so that I don't have to weld it on that way. And then I won't have that chunk of 3/4 inch hose going to the pump, because the pump is 1 inch on the suction side of the pump. So, and there's more. I don't have those fittings yet, but it would get closer to the heat exchangers. Oh, I didn't pick up that one. I have another one. It's like an ordinary transmission cooler, whereas these are liquid to liquid. It's basically just an automatic transmission cooler that you would put on the front of a radiator or something. And I've thought about literally just rigging it up and dropping that cooler into a 5-gallon bucket of water and seeing how much heat I can alleviate from the system by just having a cooler into a bucket of water. So, lots of ideas. I don't know. I know I'm very limited on power with 1.5 amp output on the engine that's on the wood splitter, and I only have that 1.5 amp because it's an electric start. If it was an electric start, I wouldn't have anything. So the perk is I can go out to the wood splitter, I can slip one of these batteries onto this and flip the switch. I can use the electric starter to start it, and I don't have a $100 lead acid battery sitting out there in the weather that I've got to replace every couple of years, or somebody that decides that they need the battery more than I do. So anyway, this is kind of, I'll have another order of parts here, get the 3/4 to, or the 1 inch to 3/4, because I can't go 1 inch straight to 3/8. I have to go 1 inch to 3/4, and then another fitting from 3/4 down to 3/8. So that's why that is the way it is. So lots of fun. So basically, to do this, I am literally going to have to completely tear the wood splitter apart to its most basic components to get these things welded onto the tank. So, and that's why I was thinking about doing the transmission cooler idea, and with a 5-gallon bucket of water, and how much am I gaining by cooling it with 5 gallons of water? And I could hypothetically, I could have 2 5-gallon buckets of water there, or however many of buckets of water I want. And, that water gets up to 90 degrees. I can take the cooler out and I can literally set the cooler back into another bucket of water that's at room temperature. And, because it's water. It's not a bucket of hydraulic oil. So I can dump it out on the ground and I can fill the bucket of water back up with fresh cold water out of the hose and keep going is kind of my theory that I've got in my head. So anyway, that is the latest update on the 1980s modified box store wood splitter. Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye.